Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Fact Check. Today we're joined by Ashley Stevens. Ashley, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
So my name is Ashley Stevens, but you can just call me Ashley or Ash. I work in education. I've been working in higher ed for, it'll be 11 years this fall because I started in August 2010. I really love working in higher ed. I have done student services. I've worked in the counseling center, academic advisement, career advisement. I've worked a little bit in the donations area where you talk to donors, but that definitely wasn't for me because I could not call people and ask them for money. I'm just not good at it because when someone says no, I'll just say, "Oh, okay, well, just let us know if you would like to donate to this scholarship." So they were like, "We need to take you off of that side. We need to put you somewhere else to where you're more personable." And then I fell in love with student services and counseling students through my internship when I was in undergrad because I worked with a department and as a work study student, and then that evolved because I worked really close with the director of advising and admissions, and I worked in the counseling center, and it just really completely changed my world. And it made me fall in love with school and academia and just all the things that and the possibilities through academia and higher education, meeting people from different cultures and different backgrounds. And it's just, I truly love what I do. It's not the easiest job, working in education, but I love it.
Ah, that's amazing. Amazing. Very well said. It's really good. And that's so good. I'm not sure how to respond, but that's just, thank you. That's really, really cool and really sounds like you and everything I wanted to know. So thank you so much. And I'm really glad you're on here. Thanks for coming on. Great to be
Thank you for
talking to you.
having me. Thank you for having me. I think that we had connected either a year or two ago, right when you
Yeah.
were thinking about applying to college and you reached out and you were very nice. You were so kind. But I usually try to respond to people like if I get a message, which is difficult now because sometimes I get messages and sometimes I don't get the message. I don't know why Twitter does that. And you reached out and said, "Hey, I have some questions about higher ed because I'm thinking about applying for these schools, but I kind of don't know which way to go." And I love questions like that and talking to students who are trying to figure things out. Because I always said how I got into it is, and I was learning so much towards like my junior and senior year, to where I said, "Oh my God, I want to do this because I wish if I knew then what I knew now, like I want to be able to tell other students everything that I wish someone had told me." I just happened to luck out with the internship that I got on campus working with a specific department. I was working with the history department because I was at USC, and I had a phenomenal advisor, an academic advisor, and awesome professors who just really enveloped me and helped me develop as a student. And I learned how many different services that are on campus that, if you just going to class and going home and you're just, trying to focus and get adjusted, you might not be aware of all of the services that are available to you. And I just had a phenomenal advisor that I'm still in touch with today and that we ended up becoming friends later, Allison. And she was just a wonderful person, like the best like if I could copy her, like clone her and just put her all through every single university, she just needs to be everyone's advisor, I would do that because she was great. She really made my experience different, and I learned through her that when you work in student services, if you have the right people around you, your whole college experience could just magically open up and just change, and you realize all the things that you can and can't do and all the opportunities that you have. And I always lead with students with telling students pretty much everything that you have like at your disposal, the things you can do between study abroad, to getting an internship off campus, on campus, being able to do research with professors, all of these different things to take advantage of these next 4 years. And if you're in grad school, because now I primarily work with grad students for the most part, I want them to take advantage of every single opportunity that you have right now. Because these 4 years, it's like, it's difficult to explain it. It's this magical time in between being like a child still, because you haven't really experienced life, but also being an adult. So you have, like, you can do things that adults do. Like, you don't really need to ask permission. Like, if you want to go somewhere or do something, you're living on campus, you just go, versus normally having to ask your parents. But since you're still technically an adult, but you haven't really lived that adult life. So it's the perfect in between time to figure out who you are. What do you like? What do you enjoy? What are you passionate about? What do you not like? I thought that I liked one thing when I went into college. Like, I was like, oh, I'm going to definitely take this chemistry class. Like, I could be a dentist, or I thought about business. I changed. My mom and I still laugh about this because when she tells people what I do for a living, she always says, oh, she's the perfect person because she changed her major like 5 times. And I did. Like, I took so many different classes and I changed my major like almost 5 times until I finally got it. And she's making me count 5 because I ended up double majoring. And I had a minor because I had so many credits, and my advisor was so great. And and this is something I do tell students, undergrad students, depending on how your college works. Let's say for me, I was majoring in political science and you had to pick a minor at USC, you had to have a minor. And I went in there to talk to my minor advisor, and she was like, do you know if you just take 3 other classes, this can be a major and you can have a double major? And you're basically graduating with 2 degrees, but you're only paying for this one. And that blew my mind because I said, wait a minute. You mean to tell me I can get 2 degrees? Like, this is like, I can do that? Because I always thought when people said they had multiple degrees, maybe they were going to college like over and over for a long time. I had no concept of what like double majoring was. And she opened my eyes to say, hey, and a lot of times you can cross over. It's a little bit more difficult because you might have to take even more classes than that. You have to take your gen ed courses if you're doing a science track or arts track. Fortunately, political science and my history degree was still in the arts and humanities. So I didn't have to take any other core courses. I just added more history classes. And I ended up graduating with a double major simply because my advisor was so great, and she just said, you have this option. So every time, I advise students who are coming in and they're saying, I don't know quite what I want to do, I ask them, what all are you interested in? What do you think you're interested in? Gen eds that's the perfect time to take a lot of different courses to kind of figure out what you like. I took a religion course, an anthropology course. I took some business courses. I learned really quickly that business definitely was not for me, even after doing like an internship with BB&T. That definitely wasn't for me. And then I thought maybe I might want to be a dentist. Then I took organic chemistry. And that course was so difficult. I was like, okay, this definitely is not for me. And I ended up taking a history course with Dr. 2 classes is what's happened for me. And it was History of Latin America with Dr. Matt Childs. And it was the politics of South America with Dr. Heather Hahn, who I still contact Dr. Hahn. She ended up being my faculty advisor. And then I went off to grad school and she ended up mentoring me through there. She's actually the political science department chair or head. I think she got, I want to say she got, and I know she's at Mars Hill, and I want to make sure I look it up. So I'm giving her due. Because she was amazing. And I took those 2 courses and they were so phenomenal that those 2 professors changed my complete trajectory of like, what do I want to major in? And then I thought, well, maybe I want to go to law school when I'm done with this. And as I said, I was just really welcomed and nurtured and embraced within, in the history department. And Dr. Pratt, her husband was a lawyer, and she said, if you're thinking about law school, I want to introduce you to my husband. Kind of like, it was almost surreal, like how the movies, when the professor says, "Oh, come to my house and I'll, help you with this." But she really did do that. And they had two like golden the Labradors. And he just sat down and talked to me about like law school and what I wanted to do, and just really guided me through the whole process. And I realized maybe I might not want to do law school. I just want to stay within higher ed. So that's what I ended up doing. But it all started, the root of it was I had a really good team behind me, and I had really good professors, and I had really good advisors. And it just made me personally want to say, well, how can I take everything that I've learned and help other people?
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's really, really great. So, you definitely sound like someone, following you on Twitter and everything, you sound like someone who has a double major in history and political science. You're always talking about this stuff. You're really smart, you're really funny, and you're like there's a lot of people who feel like half the people on Twitter must be getting paid by one political party or another from the way they talk. But if you're not like that, you're just like, okay, let's say what's true and try and break the stuff down and change it a bit. So let's do a bit of that, talk a bit about that right now. So what do you think are the biggest misconceptions that we need to dispel about what politics is, about the kind of change we need, about who we can trust and who we can't, and about how we can make an impact?
Well, as far as who can we trust, that's difficult. I don't want to say you can't trust anyone or you can trust people. The best thing to do is to look at someone's record and the policy that they have been pushing. How hard are they pushing this policy, and for how long have they been pushing for it, and how do they vote, right? So someone can say, I really think, we should focus on education, and we should make education as accessible as possible to everyone, meaning it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, if you have a disability or not, your race, your age, wherever you come from. If you want to go to school, we want to make it accessible. So if someone's saying that and you're like, oh my gosh, I really love education, it's like my number one thing. It's my number one thing. I definitely want, I'm going to vote for that person. And then you look at their, I'm making sure I turn off like my alarms. I just realized it was the alerts. Sorry.
Good idea, no problem.
So then you go and you want to look at their record. So if someone's saying that education is a priority for them, but then they're voting for budgets that are going to cut education, or they talk about accessibility in politics and education, but they're voting against bills that would fund disability services, or they say, I'm really focused on climate change. It's really important to me. And they say they're co-sponsoring bills, but when the opportunity comes for them to really vote for things that matter, when it comes to environmental policies, they aren't voting for that. So what you have to do is you can listen to the rhetoric and the things they say, and you can look at their platform, and that's a good starting point. But if they've been in politics long enough to have any sort of voting record, that's where you go to see where someone really is, because their votes, that's really what they're saying. And you have to be careful. Politicians will say one thing, but the voting always tells the truth. So I would say, look at their record, pay attention to their rhetoric, but also pay attention to their record, because that will let you know where they really stand.
That's great. That is really, really good, because that's like actions speak. It's cliche, but it's a cliche because it's so true that actions speak louder than words. Because it doesn't cost me anything. I could say anything right now. I could say that I think there should be 1 billion people living on Mars, and look, it didn't cost me anything to say that. But does it mean anything? If I say that, then I vote and say that NASA should have half the budget they have now. Then what happens? We're further away from doing that. So it's really a good point. Thank you. Let's see. Let's see. And relatedly, what